Hello and welcome. This is candidate master Viktor Neustroev, and today I'm going to make a review of the third game played in World Championship match between Fabiano Caruana, the candidate, and Magnus Carlsen, who is a champion. So 3 games were played, all of them were ended in a draw, so that's why the current score is 1.5 to 1.5. The first and the third games were played with white pieces by Fabiano Caruana, the candidate. So, both players are approximately of the same strength nowadays. I believe Fabiano Caruana is in a better condition. He won a lot of great tournaments before this match, and I think he is likely to win this match, but the problem is that if there will be too many draws in this match, and then they will play 4 rapid games to decide who will be the champion. Then in rapid, Magnus Carlsen, of course, is much better than Fabiano Caruana. So in rapid and in blitz, Magnus is better. However, in classical chess, they are approximately equal. Both have chances to win, but of course, the games are likely to end in a draw. Okay, so this is the third game. Let me just remind you that it will be 12 games. So now let's review the third game. Fabiano Caruana is played for white pieces. E4 was played, C5, so Magnus Carlsen decided to play Sicilian. That's a really good idea because Sicilian usually leads to sharp variation, which are interesting to watch, to analyze. But unfortunately, after knight f3, knight c6, white played bishop b5, and he played Rosalima variation, which is not as sharp as the main lines. This is how I played when I was younger. So now I prefer to play the main lines and d4, for example, in this position, then maybe mark the system. Okay, I believe next time Fabiano Caruana would play d4 or c3 in this position, and we will see something really sharp. Okay, bishop b5 was played, g6. According to the theory here, white should trade his bishop for the knight, then d takes on c6, opening the bishop, then d3. Also, white should play h3 to stop this bishop g7, and this is why white can play h3 to stop the bishop. However, Fabiano Caruana is not afraid of this pin. He castled. Actually, that's not a real problem, because then h3 can be played, and black has to take on f3. It can't move to h5 with his bishop because of g4. But maybe if bishop g4 is played, then knight d2 is recommended. So then h3, because then bishop takes on f3 and the other knight takes on f3, and the position looks good for white. However, even in this position, after Fabiano Caruana castled, black played queen c7. That's a kind of a novelty. Of course, this move was played by international masters, but never on grandmasters level. The main move is knight f6 here. Knight f6, and here white plays h3, knight c3, bishop e3, queen d2, with the idea to trade the bishops on h6, or just knight goes to h2 and f4. Actually, this plan, knight h2 and f4, was applied in the first game of this match. Okay, queen c7, and here Fabiano Caruana played rook e1. I don't like this move because after e5 was played in the game, the rook doesn't do much standing on e1. I would play something like knight c3 or knight d2 with the idea to activate the knight somehow. Okay, rook e1, e5. However, then I like that Fabiano Caruana played a3 with the idea to play b4, occupy some space on the queen side, and then develop the bishop to b2. If, for example, a5, which is a mistake, kind of a mistake, then bishop a3 can be played, b6 to support the pawn, but then knight goes to d2. And later white can try to play b4, try to ruin the pawns here, and maybe knight c4 attacking the pawn on b6. Okay, so in this position knight f6 was played. b4, and if black takes on b4, a takes on b4, it's in white's favor. That's why Magnus Carlsen decided to make kind of a trick. He castled, sacrificing the pawn on c5. Fabiano Caruana didn't take, but he played knight to d2. However, even to take this pawn was a good move. At least it deserves attention. For example, if knight d7 looks like he takes the pawn with the knight, on the next move we can play bishop a3. That's logical, but then f5 with some counterplay on the king side for black. However, the line continues. a4, f4, bishop goes back, knight c5, bishop a3, pinning the knight, then b6, knight to d2, rook e8 for example, and here we can take on c5 to ruin the pawn structure, and then for example queen c1, queen e3, and not knight b3, because if we play knight b3 then c4. Black sacrifices the weak pawn but ruins our pawn structure. Okay, so maybe white were afraid of this counterplay with f4, with f5 and f4. That's why in this position he played knight d2, bishop g4, h3, and then he has to trade his bishop, because if he goes to e6, then we play bishop b2, so the bishop on e6 closed the e file. That's why the rook from e8 can't protect the pawn on e5. That's why knight d7 here to protect the pawn, but then knight g5, and the bishop will be traded for the knight anyway. That's why he takes here, knight takes on f3, then c takes on b4, a takes on b4. Another way to play was knight d7 in this position. If bishop e3, then c takes on b4 here, a takes on b4, and a5. Almost the same happened in the game. So c takes on b4, a takes on b4, and a5. So why a5? Because the a pawn standing on e7 is a weakness, because white has an open a file and it attacks on e7 with the rook. If black plays a6, it slightly weakens the black squares like a5, b6, and c5. That's why a5. And in this position white has to take. Later in this position it was played bishop d2. After the game, Fabiano Caruana said that it was the only mistake he did in this game. So bishop d2 attacking the rooks looks logical, but a rook takes on a5 will be better. Then queen a5 and bishop d2 now. the queen has to move, and at the same time it has to protect the pawn on e5. So queen c7, queen c5, or queen b5. 3 options. If queen c7, then we play queen e1, occupying the a file and attacking the e5 pawn. Knight d7, queen a7. Rook c8, with the idea to protect the queen and then play with the b pawn. But rook a1, bishop f8, bishop e3, preventing bishop c5 move, b5, and g4. And in this position, white has pressure. So you see, white pieces are more active than black. Well, queen c7 is the most logical move, but we can also check queen b5 or queen c5. If queen b5, then queen e1, occupying the a file and also trying to join the rook to attack on the pawn on b7. So queen b5 will be a mistake. Queen c5 is also kind of a mistake. Here we play queen b1 with 2 ideas: to capture the pawn on b7 and to play bishop b4 and win the exchange. That's why queen e7. And if bishop b4 now, c5. Bishop c3, attacking the pawn. Knight can't move to d7 because the pawn on b7 will be lost. It can move to h5, however. Then queen b2, increasing the pressure on e5 with the idea to play g4. Actually, we don't need g4 to capture on e5. The other idea, so we shouldn't play g4 here, but rook b1, or even take on e5 if black allows it. So this idea to trade on a5 first and then play bishop d2, of course, was better, but he played bishop d2 first, then rook a8. It's quite clear why he decided not to take on a1, because this is how white can occupy the a file. So black doesn't allow white to get the a file for free. That's why he just moved the rook back. Queen b1, knight d7. This position queen b4 was played. However, there were other possible moves. For example, queen b2, b5, rook a8, rook a8, rook a1, with the idea to trade the rooks and to occupy the a file. But after queen b7, the position looks drawish. What else? Queen b3 here. Then knight c5, queen c4, knight e6. And here, with this knight maneuver, it's only black who improved his position. The other move was bishop e3, b5, queen b3, rook b8, rook a2, with the idea to double on the a file and to occupy this file. But then he takes, and maybe this line was slightly better than what happened in the game. So here, after rook a1, white occupies the a file. His bishop is better than the bishop on g7. The pawn on e5 is a potential weakness, and one more thing that you can notice here is that the pawn on f7 can be a potential weakness because the queen is on e2, and we can just play knight g5 and create some problems, probably. Of course, not in this position, but maybe in some lines. Okay, queen b4 was played, rook f8, and rook e8, bishop c3, b5, with the idea to play c5, of course, after one of the rook supports the pawn on b5. Rook takes a8, rook takes on e8, rook a1, trading the rooks, queen a7, attacking the bishop, queen a2. Now the pawn on c2 is hanging. And the only option for white was to play queen b2. That what was happened in the game. Well, knight e1 looks strange and too passive. As for queen d6, another attacking move, then queen c2, queen d7, queen takes on c3, queen e8, bishop f8, and knight e5. Here, black can play queen e1 check, king h2, and queen f2, protecting the pawn on f7. If queen takes on c6, then queen f4, and black wins a piece. But if knight c6, we can just play queen f6, knight a5, king g7, with the idea to play bishop d6. I believe this position is better for black because of a distant passed pawn. So the pawn can't be taken. If so, then queen f4, king g1, queen e3, king h2 maybe, or h1. Bishop d6 anyway, with the idea to create a pin, then try to play queen d4 to increase the pressure. Okay, let's go back. So that's not obligatory to analyze this line because, yeah, queen b2 is the most logical move. But this endgame is equal. And according to what I know and what I see from Magnus Carlsen's games, he's better in endgames than Fabiano Caruana. And also Magnus is better in equal positions. He can outplay almost everyone. King of 1, king of 7. So both sides want to get the kings closer to the center, but after king e2, black played knight c5. He wants to use the e6 square for his knight. That's why he didn't play king e6. Bishop c3, knight e6. g3 was played here in the game, and I didn't like this move. I think bishop d2 was better. Then bishop goes to e3. If now knight f4, then we take this knight and knight d4, winning the pawn. If, for example, first king e7, bishop e3, and now knight e4, we still take this knight, then d4, then we can centralize the king to d3, and this position has almost no weaknesses. Maybe slightly better for white, however, it's a drawn position. Okay, g3 was played in the game. Why I don't like this move? Because usually when we have bishops in the endgame, it's highly recommended to place the pawns on the square that cannot be achieved by the enemy bishop. So the enemy bishop is the dark squared bishop. That's why to place the pawns on dark squares can cause some troubles, potential troubles, of course. Okay, bishop f8, knight d2. So d4 was another possible idea, exchanging the knight, and then I believe no, then I think it's still a draw, but there were some chances that black can get the distant passed pawn on the queen side, so c5, c4, and like this. Then there is a chance that he plays b3, and it will be a distant passed pawn here. And it's very risky in case if the bishops were traded. So in the pawn endgame with the distant passed pawn, black can win. That's why d4 was too dangerous. Knight d2. He is going to b3. But knight g5, forcing white to move another his pawn to the dark square. knight a6, knight b3, h5. Later, black wants to play g5 and try to create another distant passed pawn. If only he can create two distant passed pawns, one on the king side, the other one on the queen side, then I believe the position will be technically winning. So currently he just fixed the pawn structure with this move. Now g4 can't be played. Moreover, I don't think g4 is a good idea because it allows the knight to go to the white's camp with knight f4. Okay, bishop d6. Oh, bishop d2, bishop d6. c3 with the idea to play d4. Then c5. Bishop a3, king goes to e7. King d1, king d7, king c2, f5 here. With the idea to play f4. If g5, for example, in this position, white can just play f3. Then, for example, g takes on h4, g takes on h4. Then knight goes to f8. If knight goes to f8, then he loses the pawn on c5. That's why first king c6, knight c1, knight f8, knight e2, knight g6. And now bishop f2 looks too passive. That's why knight g3 just trading the pawns. If knight f3, knight f6. If he protects the pawn with the bishop, then just f4. And that's a draw anyway. Okay, f5 with some chances to win. King d1. So here black played f takes on e4, but it was better to keep the tension with just king to c6, knight a5, king b6, knight b3, and bishop e7, with the idea to play f4 and to try to ruin the pawn structure on the king side. However, f takes on e4, d takes on e4, c4, knight d2, knight c5. So knight goes to d3, and then the king can move to c6, then bishop c5, the bishop will be traded, and the knight in game will be better for black, because black can create a distant passed pawn on the queen side. So, you know, knight in games are almost like pawn in games. That's why in this position, Fabiano Caruana played a really good move. He just traded. So, you know, usually in the end game, the bishop is better than the knight if we play on both sides, like in this position. But here it was the only chance to get a draw. Bishop c5, king e2, the pawn here on f2 was hanging. King c6. Anytime while black plays b4, he blunders the pawn on c4. That's why here he waits for knight f1 and then play b4. So the pawn in game will be winning for black, of course, because of a distant passed pawn. Here c takes on b4, bishop takes on b4, and knight a3. Here c3 is not a big problem because king d3 he just simply stops, and black can't come closer with his king. So that's why here king to c5. But you see, not so many pawns left. f4, and then if we just get rid of these two pawns, it will be a draw, because black has a dark squared bishop, and the queen and square of the h-pawn is light. If only the king occupies the h1 square, it's a draw. So actually, it happens. Bishop a5, f5. G takes on f5, and in this position, instead of taking on e5 with the pawn, Fabiano Caruana played knight takes on c4. If now f takes on e4, he loses the bishop, and the position will be even winning for white. So he took, and after e takes on e5, the king gets to the h1 square, and it's a draw. Oh, for example, well, I believe you know that that's a theoretically drawn position, but anyway, let me show you. So you see the king is on h1, and if now h3 or king h3, then it's a stalemate. Okay, good. This was a review of the third game played by Fabiano Caruana and Magnus Carlsen. Please subscribe to my channel and follow these games. I believe I will upload more games analyzed. See you.